Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel and another episode of Let's Talk Positive Vibes. So in today's episode we're going to be discussing dating in the workplace.
Dangerous territory.
Yeah.
So we're going to touch on things in terms of how you approach dating in the workplace.
So myself and Tim we met at work, so we kind of feel we could give a little bit of advice on this an insight into this topic. So we'll start off really by discussing how you would broach the situation. So for example, obviously with you and I, we were chatting, and I think there was a connection of some sort.
Definitely. Yeah.
Which I've said that I probably would never have followed up on.
If it wasn't for my
consistent
pursuit.
I think at the time I wasn't really expecting that I was going to be in a relationship, so I wasn't really in that mindset. I wasn't focused on trying to pursue something with someone. I was just focusing on myself and work and stuff. So, I
caught you by surprise.
Yeah. So
it's interesting with you and I, because we had met prior to our conversations that felt more connected. We had a couple conversations when I had first arrived to the company, but they were more kind of just fleeting moments. They were more kind of just general chit chat, and then we started to establish conversations with more depth to them, and I think that's when we realised that there was a connection going on.
The conversations just became a lot longer as well. Obviously, we'd bump into each other in the kitchen and stuff, and you just have it started to become a bit more. It was more than surface level. It started to become very deep at that point.
Exactly. So we're going to kind of touch on all of these things and talk a little bit more about signs of a connection in the workplace, but also how you actually approach the situation, because it can be sensitive and delicate and potentially, I said, dangerous territory.
It's a funny situation because obviously it's work and you're in a professional environment. And I think one thing about having a relationship at work is that you don't want it to ruin the professionalism of the environment. Obviously you're there to work, and I think when you start becoming romantically involved with someone, then it starts to become a little bit complicated. Obviously, people meet at work all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
I think it's very common.
It's very, very common because you spend the majority of your time at work. You're bound to meet people at work. It's just how it is, just how it happens. But I think there's just ways of approaching it and just making sure that it is. It remains professional.
Yeah, and I think just mindful of the potential landmines.
Yeah, exactly, because obviously the office is a place where people gossip as well. So what you don't want is for people to start getting involved and just for it to become really overcomplicated. So I think that broaching it in a specific way. I think there's differences between people, and I think the first thing to establish is whether or not it has the potential to become something serious, or whether if you're looking for that or not, or whatever. But I think that if in the workplace, like I said, it's very complicated. So I think the first thing to establish is whether or not it's a serious thing. For me, I think when you first asked me out on a date, I was a little bit concerned. I wasn't sure what the full intention was, and not in a bad way.
No. You knew and you understood that it's something that can potentially become very messy.
Yeah.
And especially if someone doesn't have the intentions of it being a sustained, serious relationship, if it's more of the intent of just a fling, then that can definitely become very messy.
Yeah. And I wasn't really after fling, so I think I was a little bit concerned about that. Obviously, it's the work environment, and it like you said, it becomes very messy if if that's the intention.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, they don't mind that, and that's fine.
What, like a fling?
Like a fling. Some people don't office flings.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
But it's just, obviously,
there's a potential for it to become complicated. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it at all, but it's just, it becomes complicated. So I think the first thing for me was just establishing whether or not you were serious.
Our interactions prior to me asking Sarah out on a date were all in the actual workplace. And I remember feeling slightly uneasy about actually asking Sarah out on a date inside the workplace. I didn't feel comfortable with that, and I also didn't want Sarah to feel uncomfortable. So I kind of had it in my mind. I knew that I was interested in her, and I did have a feeling that it was mutual. And part of me was also a little bit unsure whether you might have just been being nice, which again is something to speak on though, because there is that as well in the workplace. You know, everyone's being professional, everyone's being just nice to each other, you know, so there is kind of space for that confusion, and for someone to get the wrong end of the stick. So at the time, and when I was contemplating, you know, asking you out on a date, it was very important to me that it was done in a respectful manner, that didn't feel pressurized or anything inappropriate. And part of that came with thinking I should be asking you out outside of work. So I just thought to myself, right, when we're out for like work drinks or something like that, that's when I'll have my opportunity to just ask you, just say, you know, would you like to go out for a drink sometime? And it was actually around that time that we bumped into each other outside of work. This was just complete kind of coincidence, wasn't it? And we bumped into each other outside of work. And I was nervous, but I thought, all right, this is the right time to ask you on an actual date. So I think it is very important from my perspective to do that outside of work. So whether that's work drinks or like a kind of, I don't know, a gathering or a party or something that just takes you both outside of the workspace. Because if the feelings aren't mutual, I think that will help a lot. That you're outside of the workspace in terms of that awkwardness and things. Whereas if you do it inside the workplace, it could come across really inappropriate and potentially not end well, you know. Because you're in the workplace, you know.
I mean, it's just.
I'd always suggest to ask someone out outside of the workplace.
I mean, again, there is nothing wrong with. It's just depending on how you see it. If you feel like it's appropriate to do that in the workplace, and that's, you know, that's fine. But I think.
Well, you have to. But it's one thing. It's one thing if you feel comfortable.
But it's another thing if the
someone
other person doesn't.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. Like that's the position I took. I was thinking, are you gonna feel comfortable with this? I was more concerned about that than my own feelings of discomfort. I was way more worried about, well, I don't want to put you in this awkward position. So that's ultimately why I do personally think why it's important to do it outside of work, unless you just like 150 million% know that the feelings are mutual. And, you know. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think it's important that the other person does feel comfortable as well, because you don't know how that person's feeling. Like you said, they might not feel mutual. So for me and Tim, we weren't actually in the same department, so that kind of made things a little bit easier in terms of being able to communicate, because we didn't have that intensity of being. Of seeing each other all the time. Obviously we work in the same building, on the same floor, but not surrounded by each other, so there was that distance. So it did make things a little bit easier in that sense as well.
And also, don't you think, in terms of, again, if the feelings aren't mutual, being in the same department and seeing each other every day could be
very awkward. Yeah, if you, exactly.
And also, sorry, go ahead.
No, if you like, you know, express interest in someone and they don't feel the same, or even if you, for example, I don't know, if you started, you know, being involved and things didn't work out and you're in the same department.
That's a very good point, actually.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I mean, that's even more important because if you do get involved and then it doesn't work out for one reason or another, that can be extremely messy if like you're seeing each other every day in the same department. So that's a really good point. I think I'd also say on that as well, do you think there's a complication if you're in the same department, for example, you're more kind of, obviously we were colleagues, but we never really interacted. Whereas if you're working in the same department, you're essentially colleagues, like real colleagues. Like you're having to interact with each other. You know, and that further kind of exacerbates all the awkwardness and everything. And the other thing I'd say is like with kind of levels in terms of positions can be tricky as well. But then again, it depends on the situation. I mean, if it works out and you're in the same department, that's great. You know, there's nothing. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I think our point is just to be mindful of the potential
implications and consequences on that situation. So the other thing I think, which is important, if you have established some sort of relationship or some sort of status, I think keeping people out of the situation for a specific amount of time, I think, is very, very important. I don't think that that anyone else should be involved in your personal relationships at work, and that's something that I really stand by. If you are involved with someone, if you are in a relationship with someone, if something is brewing, it is no one else's business. You keep it quiet. You don't need to discuss it. If you want to talk about it with people that you're close with, that you can trust, then that's fine. You know, if you know that they're very trustworthy.
And have your best interests
at heart as well. Otherwise, just keep it on the down low, because people will gossip, people will talk, and things then start becoming even more complicated, because Chinese whispers can turn into the ultimate kind of gossip train. Things will get twisted.
It's just not ideal.
It's just not an ideal situation to be in. So I think it's important when you're building a relationship at work or establishing something that it is kept between yourselves for a certain period.
Absolutely. I think we kept it pretty quiet, didn't we, for the first kind of few months? Until we more or less cemented our relationship. And then we felt quite comfortable to then let it out in the open, because we felt more comfortable with our relationship as a whole.
We knew that it was,
we knew we were serious about each other, and kind of, for example, you know, gossip, I think at that stage wouldn't touch us, because we were already so comfortable with each other, and we feel like we really know each other. So at that point, it wouldn't have had any kind of impact. But I think early on in dating, if gossip starts to brew and you hear things about the person that you're dating, you know, it could have an impact on how you perceive the other person. Even if you don't want to, it could end up doing that. So how about before we end the video, we speak about signs in the workplace, whether someone's actually interested or not. Because I know that was something, as I said before, that was definitely on my mind. I wasn't sure if you were just being polite and nice, or if you were actually interested. And I imagine that's probably something that is in the minds of anyone who wants to approach someone at work. So what do you think on that? Do you think there are actual clear signs, or do you think that there's always going to be kind of an element of risk?
I think it depends really on the person, because sometimes there is just that factor of someone just being polite, or there is that blatant, obvious sign of someone being inappropriate.
See, that's the thing, because we're talking about flirtation, aren't we? But I think you got to tread carefully in the workplace with how you exercise flirtation, because I think it's something that's very different to how flirtatious we can be outside of work. You know, the last thing you want is to have a complaint against you, right? You know,
I think it's just about. I think there is like that fine line between.
Well, I think that there's just blatant inappropriate behaviour that warrants a complaint from someone. But then there's also kind of more like the thin line stuff where you're perhaps just trying to show that you're interested, but you step over the line, and what seemed to you to be something that was like innocent and wasn't meaning for it to be inappropriate could be perceived and interpreted by someone else as something completely inappropriate. And again, it's like that's the last thing you want, a complaint to HR.
I think it's just about making sure that that other person is comfortable.
Exactly.
Just, you know, keeping that in mind. If that has potential to make that other person feel uncomfortable, then maybe just think about how you're going to broach that situation. So, you know, like we've suggested, keeping it outside of the office and making it in such a way that, you know, won't potentially disrupt or, you know, complicate the situation is probably the best way to go about it, from our opinion anyway.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, that is the main point to take away, isn't it? It's about if you're looking to approach someone in the workspace, make sure that it's done in a respectful manner. I think respect, again, is always the thing that we end up coming back to, really. It's just about having the respect and, like you said, being mindful of that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for watching. You know, if you enjoyed this video, then please do let us know. You know, let us know what you think. Do you agree with what we were saying? Obviously, you know, we've been in the situation, so, you know, if there's any kind of questions that you want to ask, anything else that we haven't touched on, then, you know, perhaps we can give you some more advice.
Yeah.
So yeah, comment, like, subscribe, most importantly, if you're enjoying these videos. We upload every Thursday. So watch out for another video next week, and we will see you again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.